Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Great America Show. It's great to have you with us today. Thank you so much for joining us. President Trump, Wheeler and Art of the Dealer. President Trump on an over 90-minute phone call today with President Vladimir Putin of Russia. Of course, a transcribed phone call, so there was no Russia collusion on that phone call. President Trump getting Vladimir Putin to agree to, quote, immediate Ukrainian peace talks with the disheveled nation. Now, I don't know any other person who would be able to do something like this in such a short period of time. The two world leaders agreed on a need for immediate peace talks that are being held in the Middle East, as well as basic structure for a ceasefire agreement that eventually would become a permanent end to the war between Ukraine and Russia. Today, President Trump and President Putin spoke for a need for peace and ceasefire in Ukraine. This is, of course, according to the White House Office of Communications, Caroline Leavitt over there. Both leaders agreed to the conflict needs to end with lasting peace. The blood and the treasure that both Ukraine and Russia have been spending in this war would be better spent on the needs of the people. Now, this new deal is the details of it are not immediately available, but the fact that peace talks between the two nations are going to start is absolutely a move in the right direction. And it's not just because the war will end, because that's great in itself. But the fact that we won't be sending billions of dollars and hundreds of billions of dollars to Ukraine anymore to stoke a war, and it's not just stoke a war, but to send money where we're not entirely sure where it's even going, whose pockets it's going into. Is it going into Zelensky's pockets? Is it coming back around through U.S. aid? Who's getting the money? We often say Zelensky doesn't know where half the money that we gave him went to or where it is. So why did we continue to keep sending money? But nonetheless, there's a silver lining in everything aside from the war ending. The fact that we're going to have to be able to now stop spending money and sending it overseas, I think is a win for America. It's a win for the world. It's a win for justice, and it's a win for tranquility across the world. And hopefully we can emulate this peace model in other places across the world where we can end the war going on in Israel, in Gaza. We can put an end to this mess in Iran, thinking they're going to walk all over us with the Houthis and their proxy attacks on the world, on America, on Israel. So hopefully this is the start of a new beginning for world peace, because I think world peace suits everybody best. When the world is not at war, when America is not the world police, the world is better off. So let's see where this winds up going. President Trump has had enough of the lawfare, and rightfully so. He's had enough of these unelected judges, these folks who have come after him now for the last 5 years, really the last 10 years, when he first came down that escalator when he announced he'd be running for president. He's had enough of it. I think America has had enough of it. President Trump this week calling for the impeachment of that judge, that Marxist Dem judge, Judge Boasberg, that Marxist Dem judge appointed by Barack Hussein Obama, who thought it was okay to rebuff President Trump on those Tren de Arargua Venezuelans that were deported. It's embarrassing for America. It's embarrassing for this nation on the world stage and everywhere that we have these unelected bureaucrats who continue to think they're going to rule the world. They think they're going to rule America. They think they're going to get away with whatever they want. It's over. So President Trump called for the impeachment of Judge Boasberg, as I said, that judge who has come out against him. And guess who's coming out in favor of this Marxist judge? Yeah, you guessed it. Chief Justice John Roberts. Chief Justice John Roberts. What a total joke. He came out today and he said it's not appropriate. It's not an appropriate response to disagreement concerning a judicial decision. But it's not a judicial decision. It's a political decision, as every decision has been from these Marxist Dems. Quote, for more than 2 centuries, it's been established that impeachment is not an appropriate response to a disagreement concerning a judicial decision. The normal appellate review process exists for that purpose. John Roberts said in a rare statement, Chief Justice John Roberts said is, well, where was John Roberts when they were using all that lawfare against President Trump? setting all types of new precedent to go after a former president and leading candidate. Where was the president then? He didn't have a word to say, didn't come out in support of the Constitution, didn't come out in support of truth, justice, in the American way. Maybe it's best, Mr. Roberts, Mr. Chief Justice, you just don't say anything at all. Let President Trump do his thing. Because these unelected bureaucratic judges, their time for ruling, it was 4 years ago under the Biden regime. It's over now. President Trump and this administration are not going to stand for anything other than truth, justice, and the American way. And we'll leave it at that. The U.S. Department of Government Efficiency, also known as DOGE, has reportedly saved taxpayers $115 billion, according to their website. DOGE, of course, Elon Musk's institution, doing all they can to try to save Americans every last dollar they possibly can. Folks, our guest today is Victor Avila. He's a former supervisory special agent with ICE. He joins us now. Victor, as always, it's great to have you back here on the Great America Show. I want to start with first the topic on everyone's mind when it comes to immigration, and it's the fact that the Democrats are fighting with themselves and fighting with America because they want back these hundreds of illegal gang members who they say have not been afforded any type of due process. They're trying to bring them back in America. I've seen the Democrats, Victor, over the last 10 years hit new low after new low after new low, but never did I imagine we would hear the Democrats beg to bring back Tren de Arargua cartel members. Your thoughts?
One word: terrorists. They forgot that this organization is a foreign terrorist organization designated by the United States. Would you feel the same, or would they feel the same if we were getting rid of ISIS, of 200 ISIS members? Would they be fighting to keep ISIS here outside freely in our community? My answer, I think, is probably no. But why is it, and I keep saying this, I sound a little bit like a broken record, why is it that when immigration is attached to what we're talking about, all of a sudden, oh, it's no longer valid, or we got to give them a pass, or there's some excuse? But a crime is a crime, and a terrorist is a terrorist. Yeah. And this administration is trying to do good by removing. I mean, if you want to, I don't even know what the argument is. We're not even arguing about even the groups of illegals. This is the one that I think we could come together and say, no one wants them. As a matter of fact, the migrant communities where these guys live, they're the first ones to tell you that they don't want them next to their apartment anymore because they've been terrorizing them all this time.
Yeah, and it screws up their work. You know, there's migrants here, and we talk about this all the time. There's migrants here who mean no harm to America, right? By them coming here, it causes harm to America because they take jobs away from people who need it. But there are people, nonetheless, who come here who just want to work, who want to send money back to their families. Okay, then you put in these terrorists into their community who mean to hurt them, who mean to hurt the American people, who mean to hurt because there's nobody off the table when it comes to these gang members. They don't care. They'll cut your head off. They'll cut your feet off. They'll cut your arms off. If you owe them money, if you owe them drugs or whatever the hell it is, they don't care. In some cases, they'll do it for no reason. We look at what happened to Lake and Riley. Poor girl on a run. It's sad that we have to keep saying her name, but the Democrats won't say it, so we have to. On a run, and just another victim. There's many people who we don't even hear about, especially in deep blue cities like New York City and Chicago, who are victims of illegal immigration. We have now this judge, this Marxist Dem judge, Boasberg, who, of course, appointed by Obama, thinking he's going to be the commander-in-chief. He demands they turn that damn plane around and you bring those gang members back. And President Trump and Stephen Miller essentially telling them, go to hell. They're in international waters. See you later. Do you think the Trump administration will continue to go down this path? Because I happen to think that this isn't going to be the first time he's going to be stopped by a unelected bureaucratic judge who just doesn't want to see America winning.
It's definitely not going to be the first one to try to stop them. And by the way, this judge is going to be overturned, I think, pretty quickly from an appellate court. I think because obviously ideology is getting in the way here. Not what you're supposed to be thinking. I think is public safety and national security for all. I don't care how you vote it. I want everybody to be. I don't want, as a matter of fact, anyone to be a victim of a crime. I don't care who you voted for. That's the beauty about this about public safety, is that it affects everybody positively. Now, this move to El Salvador was incredible because you remember, I think you and I even talked about it, that Bukele over there said, hey, I got some space over here if you guys want to bring your people. Well, whoop-de-doo. I mean, it worked out perfectly because I don't know if you've seen some of these videos, how they got into and the process. I mean, I've never booked a person like that in my life. I booked a lot of people into jails and never quite that way with shaving their heads and stuff like that. But this is what I want Americans to understand who we're dealing with. First of all, they're terrorists. Why are they terrorists? Because the ideology of the destruction of America is the same as ISIS, but ISIS has maybe a different ideology because of Western culture, religion. I don't care. The ideology here is to destroy us no matter what, whether it's through drugs, whether it's through violence, whether it's through human trafficking. It doesn't matter. Death is death and destruction is destruction. That's why they're there. And let me tell you, I hope those videos get out to most of these other members, because if there's any type of video that they could see out there that might keep them from committing a crime, it's this one saying, hey, I might end up there in El Salvador. I bet you they'd rather be in Venezuela right now than El Salvador.
Victor, looking at, and I invite everyone to go look at that prison that these folks are in El Salvador, and we should all be cheering this because these are bad dudes. By the way, I didn't see one woman in there. I only saw men, if that means anything. But that El Salvadorian prison is one of the worst places I think I've ever seen in the world. It makes American prisons, the worst American prisons, look like the Ritz-Carlton.
That's right.
In American prison, you're afforded, phone calls with your lawyers or whatever. You're allowed visits. You get certain foods. You get, if you're well-behaved, access to television and computers. Victor, these guys are locked up in what it looks to be like a cage with bunk beds like 15 stories high, and they're all just sitting there looking like, and they can't fight each other because they don't tolerate that thing. I mean, this should be a new dawn and a new beginning for these people who think that they're going to come to our country to cause harm and say, maybe we shouldn't do this. Maybe we shouldn't. Do you think this will be a deterrent for these dudes who are bad people?
It might be a little bit. And it's not really about deterring about committing the crime. It's deterring where I'm going to end up. Right. And like I said, I remember when the Haitians were deported from Del Rio. Remember the Haitian invasion? Yeah. And we deported about 1,200. I remember the exact number back to Haiti. That was the actually worst sentence that they could have gotten. As a matter of fact, one group attacked our ICE officers on the plane, and the pilot, one of them got his ear bitten off because they realized, wait a minute, we're actually going back to Haiti, and which is where they're from. And that's the last place they wanted to be. They'd rather be deported to Mexico, Central, any other country but their home country. And sometimes that's what I think that's actually a really good deterrent, saying you're actually going to go back to your home country or to one of these places like Gitmo or El Salvador.
Can you explain to the audience, Victor, because I don't think people get the full scope about what kind of crimes these guys who were deported in this Tren de Arargua raid or deportation raid, what kind of crimes could they have committed, being the worst crime and then the best crime, meaning, the least offensive? They're all offensive, but
we could start. They start with property crimes, right? And if you've never been a victim of a property crime, it doesn't feel very good when somebody steals somebody from your house or your shed or breaks into your home. They start off like that because they're obviously obtaining money and trying to stay afloat. So property crime is probably the lowest, but then because burglary of a habitation is considered a crime of violence in the federal system. Why? Because they break into the home and then they rape the girl that's inside the home, or they'll kill the person that confronts them at the home. This is the difference of a regular, if you want to say a regular burglar. They have that tendency to then move very quickly to higher, bigger, and more violent crimes: rape, sexual assaults, murders, assaults, And so this is what we're talking about. This is a group of people that's in their nature. They grew up this way. They were brought up this way. They're not gonna assimilate to the U.S. overnight or after a couple of weeks and say, I'm gonna be an American, I'm gonna roll. I'm 19 years old, I'm gonna go to the local community college. No, this is where I think Americans might be mistaken. This is a very different, unique group that has to be treated as such, which is terrorist. This is a correct designation for them. But then also the consequences come as a terrorist and shouldn't be given any excuses like the leftists.
What country puts out the worst migrants? Obviously, Venezuela is among the worst, but are there any countries that come close second with Venezuela as it pertains to the gangs and the drugs that they're moving?
Mauritanians from Africa comes to mind. Obviously, the Mexican cartels. Obviously, they're already here. They're coming back and forth in the border.
I consider those people family at this point now, Victor, because they're living among them.
They're already here. But you do have people from Africa, from other nations that you might not consider, like what's going on, Chinese nationals that have a significant threat to our national security. But there's a place up in it's a place called Yonkers, New York, that there's a big Mauritanian illegal immigration community there. And guess what's the number one crime that has come out of that? There's rape.
Robbery? Rape? Wow.
Rape. And so why? Because that's what they do in their home country. And so they come. What do you expect them to do? I'll repeat it again. They're not going to change because they cross the border. They're not going to all of a sudden absorb and follow the U.S. Constitution and law. No, these people have a very different ideology and mentality of however they were brought up culturally. Even in Mexico, by the way, I talk about this all the time with the cartel members and the family members within the cartel culture with music and drugs and all that. It's very hard to break that cycle. And you have that mentality all of a sudden incorporated in our culture. By the way, we do have a culture in the U.S. There's going to be a clash because I grew up respecting the police, respecting authority, respecting my elders. Those things don't seem to exist anymore.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. We're going to take a quick break here, folks. We're talking with Victor Avila, former supervisory special agent with ICE. We're coming right back. Stay with us. President Trump is moving the military down to the southern border. What will be the lasting effect? Will it work? We're coming right back. Stay with us.
You're still looking good.
I'm still feeling good. You know, I've got all your MyPillow products. Mattress topper, bed sheets, MyPillows, towels, slippers, blankets.
I'm interrupting this commercial to do something I've never done before. Get 2 MyPillows absolutely free on orders of $100 or more. I can't do this forever, so get on board with this great sale today. Our best-selling 6-piece bath towel sets or kitchen towel sets, just $29.98. Our famous standard MyPillows only $14.98. Queens $18.98. King size only $1 more. Body pillows $29.98. Multi-use MyPillow 2.0s with pillowcase $9.98. Save $40 on our Spring Percale and Giza Dream bedsheet sets. Any size, any color. So go to MyPillow.com or call that number on your screen. Use your promo code to save up to 80% on all MyPillow products. And when you spend $100 or more, get 2 standard MyPillows absolutely free.
Folks, we're back with Victor Avila. Thank you for staying with us. Victor, President Trump is moving the military, the U.S. military, down to the southern border. The Pentagon has deployed a Navy destroyer for border protection, presumably off the coast of either Texas in the Corpus Christi area over there, Brownsville, or off the coast of California, Baja, so just south of San Diego. Now, does this act as a deterrent to stop anybody from coming that we've got U.S. troops on the southern border?
It's not going to stop them in the way that you and I think that it'll stop them. It's not going to deter them from trying. Now, it's going to make it a lot more difficult to, and we're seeing already with the numbers. I mean, Texas right now is basically fortified. You got the military, you got Border Patrol, you got National Guard, you got Texas DPS troopers. Very little's coming in. But believe it or not, there's still smuggling. There's gaps on the border where the cartel is trying to exploit as much as possible to continue to bring the fentanyl. By the way, they're kind of calming down on the fentanyl. It's the cocaine and meth that I'm hearing that is making an incredible comeback into the United States. So I know we focus a lot on fentanyl as deadly as it is, but cocaine and meth, it's a big problem. And so they're still trying to bring it in. And they are. And they're smuggling in, they're smuggling people. And this is the enforcement now. We now have the additional people present. So that's why you see these encounters. And by the way, the Biden administration with these encounters, arrests, detentions, and all these different definitions of holding a person is very different than what it means now. Now it means that detain mean that you're not going to come in. Before it meant apprehension. And you heard the president saying, well, all those numbers under the Biden administration, they're actually false numbers because they actually let the people in after they detained them or encountered them. Well, now they're not going to be let in. Obviously, that hasn't happened. So they're going to be sent back or put in a detention facility. But the military is a good point here. You got Marines at the border. We're patrolling the skies on Mexican airspace by our military. We got drones in Mexico. Pete Hegseth, our Secretary of Defense, has been to the border twice in the last month. And why? That's no secret. They're telling you we are preparing for something here. We got DNI, we got Tulsi Gabbard down there. We got the vice president. Listen, this is going to be something very viable. I think the foundation is being set for the military when it's needed. Now, I don't think it's going to be tomorrow, but it's going to be kind of on a standby, and they're going to be ready, obtaining that intelligence that they need.
What does a wall mean for the border? President Trump often used to joke and say, the only two things that are guaranteed to work in this world are walls and wheels. What sort of deterrent, I keep using that word to try to pick your brain here on what's actually going to stop this thing. There's so many catalysts to it. What does a wall do? We finally finished this wall once and for all. President Trump just issued his second contract to continue building the wall. Once we get this thing up, what will that do now to overall illegal immigration?
I'm going to give you the couple examples that would stop. It's the backpackers coming across the desert in Texas, in Hudspeth County, which is wide open. There's absolutely no barrier there. I can't wait to see a wall there. The SUVs full of drugs that drive from Mexico in the desert, cross the river, which the Rio Grande has very little water at that point in the river. And because I'm not making this up, I work these cases of SUVs driving across. That would be eliminated instantly with a wall. And I can't wait for those barriers to go up, especially in the gaps that a lot of people know, like me and Border Patrol and other ICE agents, these gaps that have existed for a long, long time, decades. Can we just please seal those gaps? Because we know where they don't come from. That we know where they don't approach, because we have natural barriers. I mean, we got the Big Bend areas. We got these huge areas where it's just almost impossible. Someone might try, but that's why they die in the desert, and it's just almost impossible. But we know the areas that they do come from and that they try to exploit. I want those sealed, and you're going to see a dramatic, even an additional more dramatic of the smuggling not to come in, because those are the spots that they're using right now.
Now, most people who are watching this show have only seen the border on TV. Last year, I was fortunate enough to go down there and do a ride-along with a very nice CBP agent in the Baja sector, California. And he took me for a ride, and it was something I never realized before, Victor. There's, on most parts of the border, it's two walls. Both are usually on the American side, and in between the middle is where they patrol. It's all American territory. As a matter of fact, I think Americans give up some territory on the other side of the wall, just so that it's not built on Mexico's side, which I guess they're fine with. I guess it makes the most sense. But this man was explaining to me, this agent, as I was doing a ride along with him, how these guys will come, they'll jump the fence, and then they're in the middle of the wall. So it's one wall and then another wall, and in the middle, he says guys will come over in ghillie suits, thinking that they're like bushes. By the way, there's no bushes or trees in the middle of this wall. It's just desert. And they'll be on the phone, with their buddy saying, hey, I'll be over in 5 minutes. Get ready to pick me up.
Yeah.
If we're able to get this wall up and get this thing completed, which President Trump should not be hiring 2 contractors. He should be hiring 100 contractors, and each one of them should build a mile of the wall, a mile of the wall, and get this thing done ASAP. There's no reason why we should be dragging our feet with it. There's no excuses, in my opinion. If we do have this thing secured up in the next year or so, will Americans be able to turn these people away as soon as they get into that middle part of the wall and say, okay, You made it over that one side. Back around you go. Give it another try if you want. We'll bring you right back around where these people eventually get tired of it.
And that's the goal. And that's why I'm glad you're mentioning this, because a lot of people, when I've taken them down the border, they walk behind the wall. It feels weird to be in Mexico. Actually, you're not. You're still in the U.S. And as a matter of fact, in McAllen, there's 3 walls. And so the first wall is like maybe almost 2 miles from the actual border. And this is, it's very different in McAllen, very different in Arizona. There's parts where the wall actually would separate the 2 countries. So it just depends on where on the border we're talking about. But that's important to know, that it's not all the same. El Paso, Texas is very different. California is different. Arizona, very different. New Mexico, all that. By the way, all these walls are great, but now we need the personnel to be standing on the other side or in between these 2 walls, because if they're not there, what did they do under the Biden administration? They cut it. Yeah. They cut the fences. They soldered out and cut these squares. I saw them. They came through there, and we have contractors going back and putting them back, and then they come and do it. We need to eliminate that. And how would you eliminate that? All you need is Border Patrol presence, and then that's the deterrent where they're not even going to try. When they know that it's going to be almost impossible, and I'm talking about the illegal alien that's going to pay $8,000 to come over, is going to say, am I going to risk, the $8,000, whether I got it from my family or wherever I got the money, knowing that the possibility is now very, very slim to actually get into the U.S.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I want to take one more quick break here, folks. We're talking with Victor Avila, former supervisory special agent with ICE. We're coming right back. When we return, I want to talk to Victor about a long-term plan. Now, a wall is obviously great. The deportations are great. But I want to figure out and pick Victor's mind about what we can do to keep these people in their home country, how we can help make it safe for them to stay in their own country and make it habitable. We're coming right back, folks. Stay with us.
I hear every day about the products you all wish MyPillow carried. Well, guess what? We probably do. Slippers, bathrobes, pet beds, blankets, mattresses, sleepwear, loungewear, duvets, comforters, pot holders, aprons, oven mitts, and so much more. And they're all on sale. For example, get our best-selling standard MyPillows for only $14.98. Body pillows, $29.98. 6-piece bath towels or kitchen towel sets, just $29.98. Multi-use MyPillow 2.0s with pillowcase, $9.98. Save $40 on our Spring Percale and Giza Dream bedsheet sets. Any size, any color, and so much more. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save up to 80% on all MyPillow products. And I've never done this before. When you spend $100 or more, you're going to get 2 standard MyPillows absolutely free.
All right, folks, we're back with Victor Avila, former supervisory special agent with ICE. Victor, before we went to break, I mentioned I wanted to pick your brain on something. So we say we live in a perfect world. Tomorrow the wall is built. We've got millions of illegals deported back to their countries, whether it be Mexico or Colombia or wherever they're welcome back to. How do we make it habitable for these people on a humanitarian aspect, for people to go back to Mexico to live? We'll use Mexico as an example. We saw El Salvador turn that damn place around, Victor, in like mere weeks when Bukele took over and said enough is enough. How do we emulate that for the folks of Mexico so that they can go back to a place and live and work and not want to keep coming back here?
I love this question because very few people, John, are speaking about this. This is where the true compassion humanitarian comes across. And what does that mean? It means in terms of money, right? We've always helped out these countries. We've always given them billions of dollars. But now the caveat to that financial aid is going to come with, let's say the financial aid. We say, okay, we're going to help your people that just left the United States. They're incorporating themselves back into your communities in Mexico. These $5 billion are going to be for that.
Yeah.
Here's the problem is that we got to make sure that it's not going to be taken by the corrupt system in Mexico, right? And so this is where the diplomacy comes in. And it's not just Mexico, Central America, and everywhere else, that the people are actually going to be set up to maybe start their own business, maybe whatever education they have to enhance that. That's where I think people in the United States wouldn't mind their money going to and saying, listen, We'd rather help you get started back in your country, and knowing that you're not going to need the services of the United States. You will be able to be a fruitful, participating community member, citizen of your country, because after saying all that, who's going to benefit? Both countries. But one thing that has to be almost eliminated, at least in the case of Mexico, and 65 countries around the world, by the way, are the cartels, because they're not going to allow that to happen. And you have to, public safety, you said it, Bukele, why are people going back to El Salvador? Why is it nice to walk on the beach now? Why are the plazas open at night and people are going to places they couldn't go? Because it's safe. Once you make it safe, everything else is possible.
We sent hundreds of billions of dollars, under $200 billion, to Ukraine for money we don't even know where it went, Victor. We don't know where it was spent. We don't know in what form it was spent. Money's missing. Zelensky doesn't know where the hell the money went. Now, all of a sudden, he's in favor of a peace deal again because he knows the money in the honeypot is drying up. I'm all about America. I'm all about bringing jobs back to America and jobs that matter. Factory workers, our blue collar guys who make livable wages. There are jobs that I say often will never come back to America. Textiles is one of them. We're never going to be able to produce shirts, Victor, Gildan T-shirts, as cheap as we can produce them over in China. Going back to what I said about giving money and the money we've given to Ukraine, I would not be opposed, Victor, to starting to funding and in a form of a loan or some sort of monetary loan to these people in Mexico to start up factories and start up textile industries. And I'm just giving one example. There's some other ones that we won't be, sneakers and things like that. Let's get them the hell out of China, and let's issue some sort of loan to the government of Mexico to let these people start up factories where these people can earn a livable wage, whether it's $2, $3, $4 an hour, to equate living down there, and get them set up so that they can stay in their home countries. They can stay with their own people. And then, you know what, Victor, I can almost make you a guarantee Mexico is going to have an immigration problem. Your thoughts?
I love the thinking outside the box. This is what I think we need to do. And you'll be surprised. Some people will kick back or push back and say, no, it can't be. You got to have a solution. And the solution, what have we been saying lately? 80-20? Well, listen, it means cooperating with these other countries. It means that those countries cooperating with us. I think that's the hardest part. But there are going to be incentives. There are ways to do that. And by the way, if there's people that say, well, I don't want to pick up the strawberries in California, well, then there's programs. There's special programs, vetted programs that you're going to come in here on a seasonal basis, but you want to go back to your family in Mexico, that's fine. You go back, you make a little bit of money, and then you continue, and then maybe continue the education with the incentives that the U.S. is providing. I think Mexico would be an incredible partner, a true partner. They're not a partner right now. They're not our friends. And I say that a lot, and people kind of, how can you dare say that? Because look at the situation that we're in. They're just right now, I'm just barely seeing the surface of the cartels actually being addressed in Mexico, and then taking them down and stainless bodies and seizures and like stuff that I had never seen in a long, long time in Mexico because of the tariffs, right? We have to be threatening people with tariffs because we know, and Mexico knows, and Trump knows that if those 25% tariff is implemented in Mexico, they're done. Yeah. And they're literally done economically. They'll go into a recession immediately, and probably even worse than that. And so these are the things that long-term in the future, we should discuss and say, let's get together and become good neighbors and work the solutions to help both of us.
You had mentioned the berry thing, and it reminds me, the folks out here where I live in Staten Island and where my studio is in Staten Island, New York, all the Lou Dobbs gear was sold over the years in mugs. It is printed at a place, Victor, that hires kids who with mental disabilities. So in other words, it's an 501c3 organization, and they take these children, they're adults in most cases, who are high functioning but cannot assimilate to the normal world, and they employ these people. They pay them, and they produce all of our merch and all that. And I'm so happy to support these people. There's plenty of veterans programs that we can start. There's plenty more of these programs that we can start where people who cannot work, a 9 to 5 because of, issues out of our, hands, disabilities and things like that. There's no excuses, Victor. It's because people are lazy. I know you're tight on time. You get the last word here as we wrap up.
Well, what you're talking about here is a revamp. It's kind of an overhaul, and I think it's happening. I think we're experiencing the overhaul right now. And an overhaul is never good at the beginning. It's awkward. It's unknown. It's like taking apart an engine of a vehicle, right? It's easy to take it apart, but to put it back together is not the easiest, especially if you forget where this screw went in that. Oh, my God. Well, I think that's where we're at right now. It's easy to dismantle, and we're going to dismantle even more. But we got to pay attention on how to put it back together so it can function better than how it was before.
I'm extremely triggered because you just described me perfectly. I take something apart and then I call my buddies. I need you to put this damn thing back together. Victor Avila, a former supervisory special agent with ICE. Where could the folks follow you on social media and join you for all that you're working on?
Absolutely. Follow me on X at Victor Avila TX, on Instagram at Victor Avila JR. That's where I post most of my videos, and I'm getting ready to start some important projects that I'll be able to share with you soon.
We'll follow you along the way. Victor Avila, thanks so much for joining us, brother. Come back soon.
Thank you.
Folks, before we go, we want to bring you a little bit more news. I think we're going to start doing a numbskull segment of the day, numbskull of the day here on the Great America Show. There's so many Marxist Dems that we can hit with this title on a daily basis, 365 days a year. One of them is saying something stupid at any given moment. Today just so happens to be, we'll call him Tampon Tim Walz. He was on a podcast with Gavin Newsom, which is interesting because both of them are reportedly looking at running in 2028 against whatever Republican is. Newsom asked Tampon Tim Walz, governor, how do we win the voters back? Now, folks, think about it. Poll after poll shows the Democrat Party in an absolute landslide. And this is after the election now. This is months after the election. They're not gaining in any aspects. Donald Trump's approval ratings are either flat at 50% or trending upwards. And his approval rating on issues like the border and inflation and the economy are all pretty damn good. So Gavin Newsom asks the brilliant question of how do we win their voters back? Tim Walz says it's time to go on the offensive, and then proceeds to say that he thinks he could kick most of our asses. I'm sorry for the language, but this is his words, not mine. Take a listen.
Have they figured it out that the identity piece of this is more important than the actual substance behind it?
Well, they've been doing it for decades. I mean, we've saw the welfare queens. They've seen the Southern strategy. We've seen it over and over. It's an old playbook, and we're as dumb as we want to be that we allow them to do this with CRT and ESG and DEI and every three-letter word.
And then they demonize people.
Yeah, demonize, and they weaponize grievance. They other people. They talk down to people, past people. They humiliate people. They weaponize difficult issues. But the bottom line is, and I think it goes back to what we began with, is, and I applaud you for this, is we cannot continue to be on the defense reacting to this. We've got to go on the offense. We got to meet people where they are. But I also think this, and this is where, this is part of the conversation I'm trying to have, is you got to respect people you disagree with, and you can't just dismiss people. This notion
How do you fight it?
And well, this
I
notion
think
of
I could kick most of their ass. I do think that if they wanted to. I know I can outrun them, but I don't know if we're going to fall into that place where we want to. Okay, we challenge you to a WWE fight here type of thing. Counter
but it's a natural reaction. I think it's one of the reasons we're losing so many men. And again, it's multi-ethnic. It's not just white men. We're losing them. We're losing them to these guys online. We're losing them people that I'm bringing on this podcast as well. That's why I brought.
These are bad guys, though. These are bad guys.
But they exist, and we could deny they exist. They exist. Not only they exist, they persist, and they're actually influencing young kids every single day.
How do we push some of those guys back under a rock?
I think we have to first understand what their motivations are. I think we have to understand what they're actually doing. And
you don't
I think
that's racism and misogyny?
I think there's a lot of that, but I don't think it's exclusively that. When you talk to a guy like Steve Bannon, he talks about working folks, and he talks about how we hollowed out the industrial core of this country. But I understand that. But so we can dismiss the notion of election denialism. We could completely dismiss what he did on January 6th. But I don't think you can dismiss what he's saying reminds me a lot of what Bernie Sanders was saying, reminds me a lot of what Democrats said 20, 30 years ago.
Oh, brother. Folks, you can't make this up. The Marxist Dems accuse the Republicans of everything they're doing, gaslighting, and every form of idiocy they can possibly find. You know, one thing I found particularly funny in there was Gavin Newsom saying, we lose so many men to them. Well, do you ever think you're possibly losing so many men, very literally speaking, because you enforce these people to become transgender? Do you ever think about that, folks? Do you ever think about that, Mr. Governor? You ever think about that, Governor Squared, I guess you could say, Gavin Newsom and Tim Walz? I mean, totally idiotic. Folks, on other news fronts, now that we've got the numbskulls of the days out of the way, roughly 50 to 60,000 civilian jobs will be cut in the Department of Defense. Fewer than 21,000 workers who took a voluntary resignation plans are leaving in the upcoming months. So Pete Hegseth looking to cut a goal of 5 to 8% of civilian workforce, more than 900,000 folks. Still got a lot of work to do, but getting the job started, I think, is very important. Hopefully before the end of this year, they can hit that target because folks need to go. Thanks, everybody, for being with us today here on the Great America Show. I hope you'll join us back here tomorrow for the Great America Show and each and every day here on the Great America Show. We really appreciate you joining us and hope you guys are enjoying this program as we continue on the great legacy of the great Lou Dobbs. I appreciate all the feedback that you folks send in every single day, whether it be to our email, reaching out to me directly on Twitter or Truth Social. Every message gets sent to me one way or another. So I see everything you guys are sending, and I really, truly appreciate the kind words and words of support that you guys continue to send. So keep them coming. Folks, we'll see you back here tomorrow for the Great America Show, where our quest, for truth, justice, and the American way continues. We'll see you back here tomorrow, same time, same place. But until then, may God bless you, may God bless America, and may God bless the great Lou Dobbs. We'll see you tomorrow.